So we're on to our next guest for the episode. As I described in the opener, we are highlighting in May Beef Month ways that folks from coast to coast are promoting beef and telling the beef production story to consumers and students and young people and folks in urban audiences as well. And so today we are headed now from Iowa. We're headed to Pennsylvania. My next guest is Kaitlyn Swope with the Pennsylvania Beef Council. Kaitlyn, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity, Amanda.
So I was trying to think. We met like a million years ago. Do you remember where or how?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I feel like I've followed you on social media for a long time, and then at this point, it's been several years ago that I think we first met in person, and then you were out in Pennsylvania last year, and then you were at that beef producer workshop that I hosted. But yeah, it goes back.
Yes, it does. And I got your family was such a wonderful host, and I got to stay. That was your husband's family, right? If I'm remembering
Yeah.
right. Yes.
Yep.
On the
Yep.
farm right there with the beautiful scenery and the black cattle and the green grass right there in Pennsylvania. But funny story with that is you're like, oh, my husband will come pick you up and it'll take you to the farm. And I'm thinking like, oh, it's like a short jaunt. Like Pennsylvania, it's not that big, right? And we get on and we're like driving and driving. It's like 2 hours later. I'm like, are we going to get there soon? He's like, no, we're just halfway. Like,
Where are you taking me?
yes, I'll never forget that. But he was a great host, and we had lots of great conversations about cattle and all good things.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so we go way back. So now you're with the Pennsylvania Beef Council. Tell me a little bit about your role.
Yeah, so I actually just celebrated my 8th year with the Beef Council, which is hard to believe. Time just flies. So I've kind of done a variety of things, but my primary role is the Director of Consumer Affairs. So I manage a lot of our consumer outreach, both in Pennsylvania, and then we hold a national contract to the checkoff where we do work Maine to Virginia. So a lot of our efforts kind of amplify throughout the entire Northeast region. And then here in the last 2 years, we've really honed in on a program targeting youth where we're working with beef producers in Pennsylvania and placing their product into local schools, which has kind of opened a lot of unique doors and made really good connections.
Okay, now tell me a little bit about that. I don't know if I know much about this. So it's like a beef to school program. So
Yep.
how
So
does
we
that work?
call it, yeah, we call it our PA Beef to PA Schools program. So the current 2023-24 school year is year 2. So we started out small last year and we've grown tremendously. So this school year, we're active within 32 school districts within the state. We're reaching over 41,000 students. And what we're doing is basically connecting schools, serving as the liaison to get local Pennsylvania raised beef. Majority of them are using ground beef. So by the end of the school year, we'll have placed over 35,000 pounds
Wow.
of Pennsylvania beef, primarily ground beef, into schools. So really helping them serve more beef more often to students. And the program has just rave reviews from both like the food service directors as well as the students are really excited when it's local beef day.
That's so awesome. And the producers, are they donating the beef or they're getting paid for the beef?
So it's actually, we have a little bit of both. Primarily, the schools are paying, and we have a promotion grant that we secured through the Pennsylvania Department of Ag. So it's a 50-50 cost share with the grant and the schools. So there's some momentum happening within the state that's going to help schools purchase local products. But for now, we have tremendous support from the Department of Ag to kind of get this program up and running and off the ground, which is awesome.
Wonderful. Yeah, back here in South Dakota and kind of the surrounding states, it's like ranchers feel so passionate about getting their product in the schools, but they're just like donating whole beef. And I'm like, it's great, but I want the rancher to get paid, I want you to
Mhm.
get what you're worth on this and make it like a happy marriage where everybody is benefiting. So that's why I asked that. It's funny. You had me come and speak at this like beef direct to consumer meeting, which was awesome. And I always tell people I learn so much about promoting beef and getting in front of consumers anytime I travel to the coast because you guys do it better than anybody, primarily because you have more access to urban
Mhm.
consumers, whereas I live in a place where the cows outnumber people 4 to 1. But I feel like you can take a lot of those concepts, and now thanks to the internet and people being able to shop anywhere, and just that innovation that exists out there are ways to get in front of these consumers, and these consumers are willing to pay a premium for what you're doing on the land. So yeah, I loved my time in Pennsylvania, which leads me to my next question. You guys have been busy promoting beef in schools. Tell me about the books and the projects you've been doing there.
Yeah, so we obviously through the PA Beef to PA Schools program, we've garnered really tremendous relationships with those schools, primarily the school food service directors. But for Ag Literacy Week, we said, hey, we have all these great connections. Let's tap into those and see if we can get ourselves into some classrooms. So what we did was reach out to all the participating districts. So for Ag Literacy Week, we had 16 districts participate, so just over half of the ones that we're involved with. And we ourselves as staff, and then we also worked with local producers, since obviously there was a lot of visits scattered all across the state throughout that week. So we went into schools and placed over 90 copies of the Journal of Rowdy the Cow Kid. And the kids just love that story. They love walking through the different months of the year and just learning more about, the beef production cycle. And then, naturally during Q&A, everyone's like, my birthday's in this month and I love
Yeah.
this month because, and I'm like, well, let's bring this back to, why do you like it in terms of what was Rowdy doing?
Right,
But
right.
good conversation
Good.
starter, for sure. And really just, we then left a copy of the book in the classroom library. So again, just like having that additional educational touch point. We also had like a one sheeter that we sent home. So it had some like beef recipes. Again, just like making the parents aware of what was going on that day in the classroom, and then hopefully inspiring them to prepare a beef recipe together.
It's so great. And of course, the Journal of Rowdy the Cow Kid is my newest book out. And I feel like I've only read it in 3 schools so far. So I'm like still trying to like get to know the book, but you've probably had way more feedback now than even what I've experienced. So kind of anything that surprised you, like questions that have been asked or connections or dots that have been made through that story?
Yeah, I think it just really opens eyes to a lot of the schools that we're engaging with are in more like urban, suburban settings. So they're just not as familiar with like the beef production cycle, how that works, and just all the different like stages, and how, I think a lot of people think like, oh, magically a cow has a calf, and then next thing we have beef. But I'd say it really opened a lot of kids' eyes, and especially even like the teachers, which I think that's really the secondary impact, right? We're touching the kids, but then also the educators, and getting their wheels spinning on like how they can incorporate some of this information into some of their various lessons. Just last week for Earth Day, we had a visit with a school who was unavailable during like Ag Literacy Week. So I went in on Earth Day, and one of the teachers was just so passionate about like learning more about animal production and animal ag. So I think there's just that ripple effect of like people don't realize how long the beef production cycle is,
Yeah.
and just all the different like steps and people involved. So I think the book just does such a great job of like breaking that down in a easy to understand way of like, here's all the different steps, and here's how it ties back to like different members of the community.
Ah, well, thank you. It's such an honor when these books can go out and be a resource and can have more miles than what I could do by myself. So it's cool to hear that. And I always figure, yeah, like you said, it's not just the kids. It's the teachers, the administrators, the parents, grandparents. Like if they're reading these stories to the kids, like what are the things that they're learning? And so thank you for what you're doing. We just have a few minutes before we're going to switch gears and head to our final guest of the show back in North Dakota. But I got to ask you about your own operation. What do you guys do there in Pennsylvania? Tell me about the cattle and what you do personally outside of your beef council work.
Yeah, so my husband, he has a full-time job in animal health, so we're both very busy with our day-to-day jobs, but we say, through and through, we kind of live what we do both professionally and personally. So him and I and our almost 2-year-old, 20-month-old have Angus farm. So we raise Angus cows. And then, as you kind of alluded to, we're in the prime location to direct market. So we're located about an hour south of State College, where Penn State is. So we also, too, kind of tap into that direct market through our Creekside Beef brand. So we primarily a cow-calf operation, and then we send some bulls to our bull test here in Pennsylvania, and then also direct market beef. So we say we truly live and breathe all things beef, whether it's our day jobs or what we like to do during our free time.
I know. I wish we lived not like an entire country away, because you guys
Yes.
and Tyler and I would totally be like hang out all the time if in a different world.
Yes.
We're so much alike, of just like, yep, you
Mhm.
work in your careers and you do the things you got to do, but you're fueled by that passion for the beef industry and having your connections to it on the land and with your family and the next
Yeah.
generation coming up too. It's all good things. Well, Kaitlyn, thank you so much for coming on the show, and I hope we see each other very soon on the Dusty Trail.
Yeah. Likewise. Thanks, Amanda.